Hello everybody, welcome back to Joseph Q773 Majora's Mask Deep Dives. Isn't that just a mouthful? This is recorded after the fact, if you couldn't tell. I'd like to thank everybody. The Clocktown video really blew up for my channel's standards and sizes. I'm lucky if I get over 100 views. Well, this one got over 4,000, and soon it's going to be over 9,000. So I'd like to thank you guys for everyone who watched it. I don't expect this video to get as many views. If it does, wow, I guess I'll have to do another one of these for the Southern Swamp video. But thank you guys for watching that video. Thank you for the about 40 of you guys who tagged along with new subscriptions. Thank you very much for sticking around. Hope you guys enjoy the channel and hope you guys stay around for much longer. With all that said, I hope you guys enjoy this episode of Majora's Mask Deep Dives on Termina Field. And I will catch you guys in a few seconds when the video begins. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Behind the Me. Welcome back to this episode of Majora's Mask Deep Dives. Now, since the first episode of this did so well, really well for this channel, actually, I was very surprised. I'd like to thank everybody for watching that. Now, I might as well do a second episode. And what else better to do to continue with? Nothing else is better than this. This is the best idea I had, and it really makes the most sense. Drum roll, please. I believe I should be putting in that drum roll. Drum roll again. Give me a third. Termina Field. This is the second area of the game, clearly, since this is episode 2 of Majora's Mask Deep Dives. Now, Termina Field is it's very different, actually, from its predecessor, Hyrule Field. For one, Termina Field has a lot more going on inside of it. It has 4 distinct regions for each of the 4 areas, and it's a lot smaller. Unlike Hyrule Field, Termina Field has many grottos, enemies, and just small, cool stuff that makes it feel lived in. I think for this episode, we're going to cover everything just about Termina Field. I really wanted to do Milk Road and Romani Ranch, but I think that will do better as its own video. I think to start, we should discuss how to even get into Termina Field. The guards are blocking the exits to the field, and you need a sword to leave. But once you're out, depending on what exit you leave from Clocktown, you'll get a different feeling of the field. Now, typically, I always leave out the south exit to the Southern Swamp. The general layout of the field is very straightforward. It's divided up into 4 directions, much like Clocktown is. The 4 areas here are for the 4 regions of Termina. These are the Southern Swamp, Snowhead, Great Bay, and Icona Valley. Each of these areas has vastly different themes and designs, and these themes are they round the outside of the field. They're at the perimeter. Now, each of these areas include different enemies as well. The Southern Swamp has the Guais and Dekus. To the north, Snowhead having the Dongos and these little snowmen things at night. To the west, Great Bay having levers. And to the east, towards Icona, featuring Bombchus. The non-themed area of Termina Field isn't safe either. The enemies here are called Choo-Choos. These can drop specific items, like in this case, hearts and potions. As for the best way to travel around Termina Field, I feel that using the Goron Mask is the best way to do this. Since magic potions are all over the place here in the bushes, you just will not slow down, and this is also a great way I found to stock up on items after a time reset. As for trivia about Termina Field, I couldn't find much. What I did, however, was an explanation for the dancing men that we talked about in the last episode of this series. In this post from about 12 years ago in Game FAQs, this guy explains it pretty well. Now for a real explanation. These men mark the holes in Termina Field. That's really about it, honestly. There isn't much when it comes to these guys, and it may have honestly been a developer oversight. I believe somewhere I read that it's a placeholder, but in case you're wondering what you get from these grottos, in one of them it's 20 rupees, and the others it's Bombchus. That's it. Now, as I was playing, I wrote up a bunch of notes of things that I found curious. So, I might as well start with that. The first thing I want to get out of the way is the dancing ghost, Kamaro, in the Snowhead region of Termina. He can be found on one of the mushrooms, like, one of the mushroom things at night. If you play the Song of Healing, it'll teach you the dancing song with the mask, and he'll also give you the mask. This mask can get you a heart piece later on in the game, inside Clock Town at night. Also, when I was here, looking around waiting for Kamaro to show up, I started to get really bored of myself. And I did something that I've never done before in this game, and I started stargazing. And, I was hoping maybe I could find some consolation. But, I kind of found Drago, but it's also a triangle, so it really could be anything. I'm really pulling for this one. But as I was doing this, I noticed something even more crazier that I never noticed before. You may be thinking, geez, this must be something really big if he's making it so suspenseful. And it is pretty suspenseful. You won't believe this. Why does a clock tower have a spotlight? But the better question is, how does a clock tower have a spotlight? I mean, look at this tower. Look at it. Do you see a way for a massive spotlight to blast out of it? I don't. Now, I don't see any way this is possible. The ball on top is completely solid. So how the hell is there a spotlight blasting out of it? I see absolutely no reason for this. I don't know how it works. I just don't know. I don't know. I even tried checking some old forum posts from decades ago. And by decades, I mean not even 2 decades ago. And I can't find anyone questioning this. How has the Majora's Mask community looked over this very odd, extremely odd spotlight? Also, I'd like to add that the spotlight itself is also off-centered. How? This is such an odd game. I also like how from each of the areas you can see the temples. Sort of. You can't see the Snowhead Temple, but you can see Pinnacle Rock, Woodfall, and some of the Stone Tower from the field, which I think is really cool. Speaking of Snowhead, the ice blocking the path can get Goron Link stuck. This serves no other purpose than being funny. On the opposite side of the map, the swamps have some pretty interesting stuff. There's a chest in the far corner that has 20 rupees, and you can jump over this big log using Goron Link. You also need some magic beans later to get into this one chest. And here, you can also access Milk Road, but we'll talk about that later, of course. There's also a little thing of Skull Kid here, which I will talk about in the next episode since it's sort of related to the plot of Woodfall a lot more. If you go east, you can find the Astral Observatory. There isn't that much really cool about this place, but what I did find here, what I really noticed, I didn't find that there's 3 Hylian Oaks here, and there's not really many of these around Termina, and I thought it was really cool. But Southern Swamp has these massive trees, whereas this is like kind of the last aspects of Hyrule you can kind of see here. There's a few in some other places we'll get to, but this is really the last spot of Hyrule you can get in Termina. Over on the west side of the map, there isn't too much to do. There's this little useless pool of water, and there's also a grotto that requires Zora Link to use. Now, something I do think that's pretty cool here is that you can walk into these water fountains. Now, I didn't even know that these were water fountains until trying to I kept looking around thinking, what are those things? Went up to them, started walking through them. And first I walked around them thinking I couldn't walk through this center part. And then on accident, I must have just walked through it. You can probably see that on screen now. It was still just very interesting. That's probably the coolest thing that there is in the Great Bay section of Termina Field. Finally, over in the east, we have Icona Valley, which I think has a very interesting detail that no one really talks about, and that is the Triforce. Now, I have a theory about all this, and it'll be talked about farther into the Icona Valley video in probably a few months. But, I mean, we only see the Triforce here and other Highland iconology in this extent in Icona Valley. Now, here's my theory. This is theory time. Welcome to Joe's theory. I think Icona Valley is farther out into the Gerudo Desert. I mean, if I were to draw it out on a map, I think it would look like this. You guys can, or maybe, I mean, I've seen other maps of it online. I'll put both of those on screen, but that's pretty much what I think of it. The extent to my theory is that I think Icona is the farthest outreach Hyrule ever had. And maybe the wormhole entering the Twin Mill battle was the portal to get to place. Now, we don't really have a lot to work with here, but maybe I could formulate a better theory and write it out during the Icona Valley video. So, of all the main regions out of the way, I think we should talk about the nighttime differences here. Now, the only big difference here is that there are different enemies at night. Other than that, the field's pretty barren. Now that we finished talking about Termina Field and all the cool stuff I could find, how does this compare to Hyrule Field? Welcome to Hyrule Field, the main field of Ocarina of Time, one of the greatest games ever made. Now, what can I say about Hyrule Field? Well, for one, I do like the colors of Hyrule Field a lot more, and the music I'm a lot more nostalgic for. Other than that, Termina Field feels a lot more lively and a lot more real. Hyrule Field is way too big for what it is, and in the game, it takes Link an entire day just to travel across it. So, you gotta put that into context. The one thing about Hyrule Field that it does better than Termina Field is that the fact when you first enter it, all you've known so far is this very small but very liveful Kokiri Forest. Now compared to the Hyrule Field, the Kokiri Forest is an incredibly cramped and small hellhole. I remember when I first saw Hyrule Field when I was about 8 or 9, I was completely stunned. I had never seen something like this in a game before, like besides Minecraft, of course. It completely stunned me. I was blown away. It was just so vast and beautiful. Now, from a gameplay perspective, Termina Field offers a lot more. I think it's more fun to play in, especially using Goron Link. And it's even better that there are ramps around Termina Field for these purposes, and they're littered all around the field. If Hyrule Field had those ramps and it had the Goron mask, hell, that would be one amazing field. And that would even this is a callback to the last episode about the lock-on technology. Another reason for lock-on technology in these games. Honestly, I don't think Hyrule Field and Termina Field should actually be compared. This is a hot take here. One is not inherently better than the other one. Each of these areas may sort of provide the same functionality, but I think they have completely different purposes. Hyrule Field is a massive flex for the Nintendo 64. It's essentially saying, look at us. This is what we can do. We are huge. Hyrule Field also makes Link feel a lot smaller than he really is. In Termina Field, Link is a much bigger part. This also fits in with Link thematically. When we first enter Hyrule Field, he was much less important to the overall story compared to when he first entered Termina Field. Everything Link had essentially done when first entering Hyrule Field was killing a spider. When he first entered Termina Field, he had time traveled, rescued 7 sages, taken back 3 stones, defeated Ganon, overthrew Ganondorf, but he still couldn't beat the Running Man. But most importantly, he had lost his best friend. Termina Field is much like where Termina got its name, Terminal. This is a place where people enter and leave. Termina Field is a place where you enter, get what you need, and then leave. I never really hang around Termina Field. I Goron roll across the entire map, get some rubies and arrows, and then go where I need to go. The fact that I use Termina Field this way sort of made this video really hard to make. In Hyrule Field, I would walk around, fight the enemies perhaps, and walk the trails. Granted, I was doing this when I was like 7 or 8 or 9, and I don't really have anything better to do. But I can never really see myself just walking around Termina Field. Everything within Termina Field serves a purpose. But the issue is, none of these purposes serve recreation. Hyrule Field is like a public park, where Termina Field feels like a Walmart. When I'm going to the public park, I'm going to relax, I'm going to take a walk. And at the Walmart, I'm going to get the stuff I need and get the hell out of there. I'm not sure if I can drive that point any deeper. And with all that said, that wraps up this video and this great episode of Majora's Mask Deep Dives. And stay tuned for the next one, the next following weeks. I'm glad I could talk about this game. Majora's Mask was one of my first games I really got into. From the Happy Mask Salesman to Tingle, who I still really haven't talked about yet, mostly because he's not that interesting. I think he's a stupid character. Now, some people are typing away in the comments now. In this last segment of the video, I'd like to thank everyone who's watched this video and the first video in the series. I'm glad that the one game I enjoy the most, people really like tuning into this game and hear what I gotta say. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in a few weeks when we travel to the Southern Swamp. I'll see you then.